Yakmala! Yakmala! Welcome back, my friends, to the Cult Film Showdown. I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and I am super duper happy to be with you today, and I am joined by my friends. My friends, including James Cotta.
Ow!
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Monster Chiller Horror Theater.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, only that's only slightly more serious than the movie we talked about.
It's played a bit straighter than what we're about to talk about.
Jack Hall.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Actually, what the hell? I think everybody should do a woo. 1 second. Woo!
Thanks, Ric Flair. All right.
Yeah, I think that was more of a Ric Flair than it was a.
Okay, and then I guess that means we need to hear Nick Boxer's best woo as well.
Greetings and salutations. I'm not happy with that. I really am not.
Like the Cleveland Indians.
It's just all quality.
And now I just love it.
Okay, well, in case you haven't guessed, the movie that we are talking about is Howling 2, Your Sister Is A Werewolf, as we continue
How could they
on.
not guess from that?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's obvious.
Anybody who's seen it should know by now. But, as we carry on with our...
We're not going by the European title, Werewolf Bitch.
Werewolf Bitch, that's right. But yes, we're carrying on with our Sybil Danning season, Sybil-ance, and now, and this should be very interesting, Nick Boxer has to explain what this movie is actually about.
Yeah, I have to say the narrative on this one is a little bit hard to get into.
Really?
But,
you don't say.
Yeah. Well, it seems Reb Brown's sister was turned into a werewolf and killed, I think, by humans. But Christopher Lee comes in there and recruits Reb Brown and a friend, reporter friend, to go to Transylvania to hunt down the werewolf queen. Why? I have no idea. I think they just needed a white American on the team, or a white American bungling couple for their werewolf hunting team. I kind of get Reb Brown wants revenge for his sister being killed by humans or being turned into a werewolf, necessitating the need to be killed. But really, his motivations in this are really sketchy, and I don't know why Christopher Lee needs anybody else to come with him to Transylvania. It seems he's already got like a werewolf hunting team assembled in Transylvania. Now these werewolves, they're hanging out in their home. They're having little werewolf orgies and listening to prog rock or punk rock or whatever hell the music is in this. They seem to be having a great old time. And, these folks head into Transylvania, start killing werewolves. I don't really see a reason why, because the werewolves, they're not really threatening to take over the world or anything. Sybil Danning, the werewolf queen, she makes some great fashion choices before finally Christopher Lee storms into the castle, and we sort of find out that he's her brother, I think. They burst into flames, and Reb Brown and the werewolf, the girl that he drags along with her, retreat back to wherever they're from and have really unconvincing, not hot sex at the end. I don't know.
That's not quite the end, but we'll get into the actual end, I'm sure, a little bit later.
I mean, there's little funny things going on at the end there. But...
Well, are we going to get to the end, or are we talking about the credits? But
the credits.
That's a whole other discussion. The credits. There's the epilogue, and then there's the credits. Those two things both require their own discussion.
This is such an interesting movie because it's one of those. I mean, you could tell that the director came from an art background and like enjoyed the concept of making artistic movies. And the first, I would say the first half feels like that until you get to Transylvania, and after you arrive in Transylvania, it's like all bets are off and everything is wide open, and it was like everything lost control and it didn't matter what happened because it made no sense and it was completely batshit insane.
As usual, I have a series of questions. Why Transylvania?
I have a theory that this film, despite being a screenplay where the original Howling author took part in this screenplay, it's pretty obvious to me that the filmmakers in this movie, their entire knowledge of werewolves is derived from other movies that they haven't really paid attention to. Therefore, confusing werewolves and in many ways, sorcerers and vampires seems to be the norm here.
Well, the script was rewritten a few times.
I kind of feel like they were filming in Czechoslovakia, and they're like, well, that's kind of Transylvania-ish, right? So we'll have them in Transylvania because none of the stuff in the United States looks like the United States.
Yes.
It also looks like I got confused when they went from one place to another. I'm like, I'm not sure why any of the other stuff happened somewhere else, other than to explain why Reb Brown's here. Because why is Christopher Foley not staying in Transylvania? Like, why is he in the United States?
Oh yeah, and I love that they just managed to. There's so much in that, like, oh, so they're in the U.S., they're in L.A. or whatever, and it's just like, and now you have to travel to all the way over here, and then there's of course all the cutaways to the band, and at one point I was just like, did the band travel with them to Transylvania?
I love it. So yes, they're in L.A. and there's a scene with I think they're referred to as a punk rock band in the credits, but they're more like a new wave.
Yeah. Babel.
And they perform their song.
Boy, I hope
you like it. Yes, I think it's 5 times in the film you hear the same song.
I was wondering that there was that film. What was it? New Year's Evil or whatever. The one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, where they had a band and it played like they were. Clearly, they had paid the money for the song, so they decided to just play it over and over again. And I was wondering if this topped the amount of times that one was played.
Yeah, they were getting their money's worth out of this song for sure. And I'll bet you any money too that the one performance, because I mean that, like, when they shot them in the club, I'm willing to bet they pretty much only shot them once in the club from a few different angles of that one song, and that was the extent of it. Cut it in 36 times.
I feel like yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a bit later on when the werewolf sex orgy is happening, and they play the same song, and they cut to footage from that same performance in LA, and I had the same moment of like, are they there? Is this like thematic that they're having sex and the punk rock band's playing?
I think they were always there in Transylvania. You just assumed they were in LA with them.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I guess there was nothing to indicate that band was Transylvania's turn.
No, you knew that they weren't because Christopher Lee was in the club in the early going. And when you do look at
image in the film.
Yes, when you do look at the cuts between the band playing and the orgy, it's fairly obvious that they're not actually in the same place. I do believe that that's just an artistic statement by the director.
Yeah, that's a choice.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, definitely a choice.
My
wife, I was watching this and my wife Lacey was like reading a book in the same room, but was not watching the film. And about the third time the song came on, she's like, this is just the same song over and over, isn't it? Like, yeah, you're probably noticing it more than I am because you're not actually paying attention to the film itself.
Yeah, that's right. There's and that's the thing about the storyline with this one is it really does make, for the most part, no sense. Like, I think there's the little bit of a throughput of, okay, so you have to find Stirba and kill her because werewolves are going to do bad things. Okay.
Because reasons. Yeah.
But yeah.
The entire storyline is werewolves like to have orgies and eat. That's it. That's basically what it comes down to. Orgy, orgy, orgy. Then they'll eat somebody, orgy, orgy, orgy. I really want to become a werewolf. I'll be honest with you.
It's a compelling pitch.
And I was actually sort of on board with those. Those guys were jerks.
Well, and especially when you talk about the one werewolf guy, the second in command male werewolf, what was his name? Vlad, I guess it was. And I mean, it's just constantly going into like fits of like. I wanted to. This is the movie that makes us want to have a video podcast, is because there's so much that you could show from this.
This has to be seen for sure.
Yeah.
This is that's the thing, is it's a weird thing. You would assume that the sounds werewolves would make would be like the howls that we did at the beginning, or growls, not.
Suddenly it's.
That's the sounds that are made by these werewolves.
He's doing his best Bill the Cat impression, yes. But no, I think it's hilarious because at the beginning when the one werewolf who is in California decides to go kill the bikers for no apparent reason with the clan of werewolves that are in California too. It's one of those cases where it's just like she calls them by howling. It makes sense in a movie called The Howling, but it's from that point on there's so very little actual howling going on.
It's kind of howling light at that point, yeah.
It's kind of werewolf light. I mean, sure, we cut away to a werewolf that I think they're just using the first one's transformation effect or whatever. But other than the werewolf threesome, there's a lot of like werewolf sex in this, but there's only one werewolf like wolfed out sex scene, which had more back hair, maybe more back hair than Ninja 3: The Domination. But nobody turns into a werewolf in this one.
Well, they turn into a werewolf, but we don't see a full transformation, which made me think that they recycled all of the transformation stuff from the first film, maybe, or from other. Oh yeah,
films. It's just cut in there.
Because I never saw the first film, so I'm just like I decided to go into this blind, not knowing the rest of the Howling franchise.
All 8 of them.
How many are there?
I do believe it's 8.
It has to come up again. I mean, anytime you have like Howling for the marsupials,
there are indeed.
We got to get to it.
Yep, there are indeed 8.
Yes, yeah. Now the director, of course, didn't go to do another one of them.
No, I would assume he did music videos after this.
Well, and I'm wrong. Philip Mora did Howling 3.
Did he do? Yeah. Well, good for him.
Now I want to see Howling 3 as well.
Well, still, let's get back to her outfit. You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh yes, for sure.
Your uncle is
you mean the leather and metal bikini with the, I want to say, pussy high hooker boots?
The higher than that, it's like they took like, and that's the thing about this movie. It's like most of the costumes in this movie look to me like they were clearly just, what do we have around in other sets? Oh, that's from a Gladiator movie. Well, put that helmet on somebody's head then. That's werewolfy enough to me. And what's that? That looks like it's from a science fiction movie. Well, put that on that person. That's werewolfy enough to me. Like that seemed to be the whole set design and especially the costumes in this thing. But hers, I mean, I swear to God, they must have taken part of a spaceship to make those thigh things on her and then welded it on. She couldn't sit down in it. It looked incredibly uncomfortable, but it's memorable.
Well, and it's a 5-piece outfit because the the leggings are not attached to the main body part, which is what makes them look extra weird because the leggings come up and then out, kind of like jodhpurs. But there's space.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. There's space where you can see her buttocks and thigh between the two pieces of clothing. Which, I mean, I was paying close attention. I was watching I was very intrigued by by this costume design.
Yes,
it really eye catching.
As you should be.
But it was amazing outfits that she's almost wearing in this movie.
And takes off.
Actually, this season I've been impressed with Sybil Danning's costumes throughout. I'm kind of wondering if she comes with like a fashion designer that's written into her contract or something.
Every movie we've done so far has had a mention, I think, of her wardrobe. So.
Oh yeah, and not
everyone will.
Not just because she fills out a wardrobe really well, which she does, but it's true. Like, and her wardrobe tastes do tend towards this. I mean, obviously, when you have a body like that, you definitely want to accentuate it. So she does a great job of that, and her wardrobe choices always do a great job of that.
Well, what I want to know is when we come to the wardrobe is, like, she's wearing that one we're talking about, the crazy one with the thigh-high spaceship, whatever. And then why did she change before the battle against Christopher Lee that happens like 2 minutes later? When did she find time, and why is she wearing something different?
Well, she found the same amount of time that every one of our heroes found to reload the guns in between shooting the bullets.
I freaking love that. There's a bit where everyone's arming up to go after the werewolves, yes. And Reb Brown, he's like, I'll take that gun. It's the only gun you have, and it's loaded with silver bullets, so that's more my speed than an axe or a crossbow. But it's like a 5-shot rifle, and he takes nothing else with him. And I feel like we would have asked for at least another handful.
For some reason, say that's made of titanium.
Yeah, because titanium was...
Yeah, silver wasn't enough. So they start talking about how titanium's even better at killing werewolves.
Yes, they needed... Yeah,
the werewolf lore in this is a little loose.
You don't say.
Transylvanian werewolves. So, I know less about them.
It's a whole different, subspecies of werewolf.
Yeah, I mean, that's really...
Yeah. I mean, but it's okay. I mean, it's not like there's a whole series of these movies that you need to worry about some kind of big mythology from. Oh wait,
I want to watch all of them.
Yes, I know.
And speaking of Transylvania, is that part of Romania, or where exactly is that? Like, I'm just trying to think of whether or not wasn't that a communist country at this point in time?
Yeah, I feel like, but then so would have Czechoslovakia been communist?
Good point.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you can get there. You don't need papers.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they can sneak Captain America into the Soviet bloc.
Captain America. Here's a piece of trivia for this film. I mean, because the one guy who's like Christopher Lee, when he's performing, looks like he's trying to remain like have all his dignity. Like he's trying not to lose his dignity in this thing. And apparently he was like did not enjoy this experience. He went up to Joe Dante, who directed the original Howling, on Gremlins, and the first thing he said to him was, "I apologize for being Howling too."
When the start of Jocks apologizes, it's a bad film.
It really is. Yeah, he was trying to keep all his dignity, but this was,
that's an uphill battle for sure.
Now, I mean, the director did say that Christopher Lee was always a complete professional and never had any problems with anybody on set.
Makes sense to me.
He would be a professional, but he doesn't mean he wanted to be there.
Actually, I'm unsure if it was a negative filming experience. I think he was embarrassed once he saw the film.
Yeah, I mean, you often don't know when you're actually making it. I mean, he would have seen only his parts. If you had seen Reb Brown's stuff while you were filming it, you might have had a better idea of where this was going.
and let's be good and honest. I mean, Christopher Lee, as much as I love Christopher Lee, he's still done a lot of really awful movies. I mean,
yeah.
And with Reb Brown.
Yeah. Is he the Saints of Boogaloo yet? Or whatever we're calling it from now on?
Yeah, Reb is a saint, yes.
No, not Reb. Christopher Lee.
No, he's not. We've only seen a couple of Christopher Lee movies so far.
Well, Christopher Lee needs to go into the whatever we're calling the new name of the Hall of Fame for this show. Because, I mean, yeah, we've only seen a couple, but he's Christopher freaking Lee.
Yes, I mean, he definitely, I mean, the thing is that Christopher Lee brings Christopher Lee magic to everything.
How are we going to call that now?
I don't know, and now's not the time to figure that out. But
it's called Cult Film Showdown. Your Sister Is a Saint.
Yeah, that works for me.
One thing I like about this though is the fact that when Christopher Lee's in it, they used Christopher Lee to, the maximum amount that they could, because they did have his voiceovers, they did have him saying these awesome, cool words and stuff like that. So I mean, there was no question that it's just like, yeah, we got Christopher Lee, let's use him.
Yeah, but at the same time, his voiceover and stuff is completely unnecessary. Was he casting spells?
Well, perhaps it was unnecessary, and I think he was praying, casting spells, whatever. I mean, everything is open to interpretation with this movie.
I think what you're saying is that they took the same approach to Christopher Lee in this film as they did to the song by Stephen Parsons. Yes, we're going to use him, and we're going to use it, and we're going to use it. Less is more, as evidenced by or actually in this case, more is less. Or in this case, actually, I was going to say it's evidenced by the end credits, but in the end credits case, more is more.
All right. In our search for the ultimate B movie, we rate each film in 5 categories, none of which is whether or not your sister is a werewolf. Our first category is called Schlock Appeal, and we start with Stan.
Well, it's funny because in the California part, I would have said this is a 5. We're at a pretty decent movie that actually seemed like it was trying to be a horror movie. I wasn't sure where it was going, and then of course we get to Transylvania, and it shoots up probably to an 8 or a 9 because everything in Transylvania is just completely crazy. But then we reach the epilogue, and finally we hit the credits. And once we hit the credits, then everything officially just bumped up past everything else. And so I'm going to go with a 10.
Yeah, this definitely rates high on the schlock. I mean, this movie is entirely sold on werewolves and tits. 8.
Also an 8.
Werewolves and tits is a great pitch for the film. Yes. I will say. If you're going to pitch a film, maybe we'll come. That might have adversely affect my crazy concept now that you've pitched it that way. Especially the 2 different titles of Werewolf Bitch or Your Sister Is a Werewolf. Those are amazing names. And I always love when the name itself is enough for me to go. To tell someone this is what I'm going to be watching, that sounds both terrible and enjoyable. My God, that's what I'm hoping for. 9 for me as well. More heart than budget.
Oh, nobody else gave it a 9. You can't say as well. It's only one giving it a 9.
Okay, was that germane to something?
No. 9 for me as well. I'm like, as well as who? Or should I say who?
Oh, yeah. I also gave it a rating, is really what I was saying there.
Good on you.
I also rated it, yeah.
Okay, do we have a budget?
We do not have a budget that I could find.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's interesting because this feels like they did everything that they could with $12. I think it felt like all the money went into hiring Christopher Lee and to dressing Sybil Danning. But the thing is that I understand. I think I try to understand what the director was going for, and I try to understand the whole, like, wanting to make it this lush and artistic looking piece with lots of cutaways and lots of weird colors and tits and all sorts of orgies and that kind of thing. So I think the thing is that he achieves that goal on a few levels, but the problem is that it's held back by the consistent level of crap that is on the screen. So it's hard, but I feel like I don't know what Reb Brown is doing, but I feel like damn Christopher Lee and Sybil Danning and everybody else was sure giving their damnedest. So I'm going to give it a 7.
I don't know if you'd call what this movie has heart. It certainly feels like a real movie for the first 20 minutes, and then you kind of get, oh, this isn't going anywhere. But everyone, I think the key to this movie is they hired professionals to act in it. So, they sort of pull it off, and it sort of has a vibe for the first beginning. But I don't know if you're going to call it heart. I'm going to say they have just as much heart as they do budget. So I have to go with a 5.
They hired professionals to act in this, and Reb Brown.
And Reb Brown, exactly.
And also Reb Brown was there.
We all were thinking the same joke as soon as he said that. Yeah, let me see. Recycled sets, recycled special shots of special effects, recycled costumes, clearly. I mean, professional actors, sure. Christopher Lee seems the only one who actually cared about his performance. Gratuitous sequel. 4.
I went very much the opposite direction here. I think really what the director was trying for. I think that Sybil Danning thought she was doing Shakespeare. I think Christopher Lee thought he was doing any one of 100 Christopher Lee movies, and he brought the level that he brings to a horror train or something like that, where he's playing the same character because you hired Christopher Lee to play that guy.
His performance does have that certain Hammer appeal in this movie, doesn't it? It doesn't feel out of place. This could have been done by Hammer, it would have been better.
It would have had better production quality, but I think that's the feel they were going for. I think that the sex stuff probably, I'm going to guess he would have gone further. The director would have gone further that direction. Like, I think he wanted more of like the hunger. Sexy erotic.
One thing about it was it originally was shot as more of a comedy with horror elements, and was recut without the director's knowledge to be more of and producer's knowledge to be more of a horror with some comedy.
All right.
Was there comedy? Were there jokes?
I know.
I don't know what
was the original plan.
I laughed a lot. I don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. The end, like boy, yeah. The last 15-20 minutes. I mean, like that's all I was doing.
7 for me. What the fuck moments?
Well, my first what the fuck moment is Reb Brown. That seems a great place to start because, boy oh boy, you talk about hiring actors and I love Reb Brown, but damn, every scene he was in was like a lead balloon, basically. So I mean, Jim, you kind of talked about it being the best image, and Christopher Lee in the club when they put those glasses on him. Was he supposed to be hiding out because he wore the glasses? Because
you have to explain those glasses a little bit more. You can't just say the glasses.
Yeah, okay. So it's a new wave club, and in the 80s with the whole new wave, they had those really skinny sunglasses that were just kind of
full-on Geordie LaForge glasses.
Yeah, and so a bartender was putting those on him when we first see him in the club, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. And meanwhile, he is by probably about 60 years, the oldest guy in the club. And it's just like, I was wondering, I assume that those sunglasses are supposed to help him blend in with the crowd, despite the fact that he's hanging back wearing orange and red, or whatever the hell it was, and everybody else is wearing black. Well, he spies on the one werewolf. It was,
It's like you went to the bartender and said, "Can you make me look like kids today?"
Yes. And then so, I mean, there's this fantastic point where Red Brown does not believe that his sister is a werewolf, and so they go to see Christopher Lee in his apartment, business in L.A. or wherever they are, and he gives them bullets tipped with silver. Now the thing is that he gives them there's like 2 or 3 bullets, but then thankfully when Red Brown actually pulls out the rifle, which the bullets happen to work in, which is quite amazing, and he seems to fire off so many bullets that I assume, are these all silver tipped bullets? There's a great point the second that we hit Transylvania. There's a scene with hitchhikers that are kind of flouncing around in the Transylvania backwoods, and they get picked up by the werewolves and then in a big truck and kind of eaten immediately. And it's this throwaway scene, and maybe that's one of the comedy scenes that we were talking about.
Yeah, but did you notice we could still see the fat guy as they were making eating sounds and stuff? He's just there.
I also love, Red Brown was able to, without any issue, bring his gun with him from California to Transylvania. Apparently, him being I think he was a cop in Montana, supposedly, so apparently that was okay for him to bring his gun to Transylvania.
This is pre 9/11. Travel restrictions were much looser.
From a filmmaking perspective, the variety of wipes that they use to get from scene to scene in this is quite amazing. I'm not sure if there was a star wipe, but damn, there was a lot of different kind of wipes.
I was waiting for one. I was consciously waiting for
one. and it's like, wow. As far as what the fuck goes, werewolf sex. Damn, that threesome, that werewolf sex threesome was one of the weirdest looking things you'll ever see. Another joke that they had was when Reb and his friend checked into the hotel and they gave them room 666 in a hotel without 6 floors. Oh, how does that work?
I told you, it was supposed to be a comedy.
And then another thing, like, as they're walking to the castle, the whole group is walking to the castle, and like, they've got, so it's like our 2 main stars, and then you've got the preacher, and then after that you've got like 2 other guys that are just kind of there. And I noticed that they kept shifting the other guys, as one would die, they would keep shifting another guy that wasn't a star to the back. And I was just like, wow, you're totally the Star Trek red shirt guy, aren't you?
I had exactly that thought.
It's just like,
expendable crew member.
Yes, and always getting thrown to the back, and oddly enough, thrown to the wolves in this case, but
quite literally.
Yes. And then
there's also a point in those scenes where they decide to split up for no apparent reason.
Yeah, it's true, because they know where they're going.
We're all injured and not doing very well.
More specifically,
werewolves. Let's split up immediately.
More specifically, they say let's split up and then don't split up. They're like, let's split up, and then there's 5 more minutes of them as a group before they actually split up.
And then finally, the world's greatest credit sequence ever, which edited to the music that the song that has played 900 times to this point, which features probably another 20 times of Sybil Danning. 17 of Sybil Danning ripping off her top and revealing her breasts, and I'm like, you totally knew the audience that you were going for.
Trivia for you. The director's cut, the original cut, the one that was more tongue-in-cheek, had it only 5 times. And the producer called the director and said, I'm thinking of adding in some more. And the director said, well, if you're crazy enough to do that, go for it. ended up with 17 times she rips off her shirt and then credits for gratuitous nudity. Also, Sybil Danning did not want to be nude in this film at all and agreed to do one shot after some negotiations. When she saw this, she was pissed. Majorly pissed.
Well, yeah. I mean, you paid her for the shot and then used it.
Throughout the entire film, if they just kept cutting there occasionally.
Well, you know what? It's the same thing as using Christopher Lee a lot and using the song a lot. We paid you for it. We're going to use it as much as we can.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, like, that credit scene, just whatever I thought of the whole movie leading up to it, that credit scene instantly makes it a 10.
For me, it was the werewolf sex. Actually, the sex in this film is really strange. Other than Sybil Danning's scene, and there's a lot of nudity, it's really unappealing sex.
Because it's a lot of like arm motions and like and weird like tongues and when everybody walks, they like any werewolf walks, they've got to have their arms behind them, pushed out behind them, like they're attempting to take flight in some sort of yoga pose or something like that. But
it was just weird because, I mean, you got orgies happening throughout the entire movie, and no time did you get the feeling that anyone wanted to be there. And the only thing more uncomfortable than those orgy scenes was Reb Brown's sex scene, where I'm not sure if he was like into it at all.
I have a piece of trivia on the orgy scenes for the werewolves. This was meant to be the 10,000th anniversary, according to the director, of the bi-curious werewolf queen.
Yes.
Oh yes, I don't want to step on too much. Here, Nick,
go ahead. They're talking orgies.
But Christopher Lee makes a point of saying that this is the 10,000th anniversary, and all I could think is like this week, what are the odds that like 10,000 years? What's that, like 500,000 weeks? And this week is the anniversary.
Yeah, but in fairness, I mean, he's her brother, and so he should know. I mean, you know, and
yeah,
and they're supposed to be wed. Oh wait, now we're getting into the end.
Actually, as long as we're talking about the anniversary thing, why does Christopher Lee think it's a good idea to attack them at the height of the full moon? When they're all have to transform into werewolves?
Running at a time. And I have a question. So this is my question then. is so okay, I mean we talked about like silver anniversaries and gold. So 10,000 years, like what is that? Is that a titanium anniversary?
That's titanium. Yeah, traditionally titanium.
Yeah, no. The other WTF, I didn't quite get why they called her their new daughter, the beautiful black woman, that seems to be a major plot point that nobody understood in this film. Why was she there? And at one point she wears a dress with one breast exposed, which I actually really appreciated, but when you have a dress that has a boob window, is the boob window the feature, or I don't know. Yeah, this movie didn't make a lot of sense, but I don't know if the WTF was real. The WTFs were really WTFs. I think some of it was just vibe and trying to make a prog rock. The werewolf movie that didn't really work with Reb Brown. It's high, but not astronomically high. I'm only going with a 7.
Interesting. I see the WTS in this as being an 8, except we have that end sequence. That credit sequence 17 times we see the woman's breasts to the music, perfectly sequenced to the music. It is the most gratuitous thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I have seen some gratuitous films.
You're talking to a man who's seen some gratuitous things.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know gratuity, and this was a whole other level. It's a 10 based on that alone. But I got to tell you, one of my favorite WTFs is they build up the final confrontation between Christopher Lee and Sybil Danning so much, and she starts off casting spells at him. Then he just kind of walks forward. She walks forward. He pulls out a knife and stabs her, and that's it. I'm like, what? Like,
but it's the exact same way when the beautiful black woman dies from Reb Brown, and he just walks up to her basically and just shanks her, and it's just like, yeah, that's it.
Why did it seemed like anybody could do this for? Hey, I'm just gonna, no effort whatsoever. The actual killing of her. Yes. So yeah, I'm a 10. I mean, I'm a 10 based on that end sequence. That end sequence is a 50.
Yeah, let's not forget, we only see like maybe 4 werewolf deaths. There's like 100 of these guys.
They just shoot most of them. Like this,
yes.
The big confrontation is just shooting them like a bunch at a time.
Is the entire town supposed to be werewolves? The entire Transylvania town supposed to be werewolves here?
I think so.
I don't know. No, I think they're just.
Want to say yes?
No, I think they're just aiders and abettors.
Because when people are running through the streets covered in blood, or little people are shoved out of windows, and of course there was a little person for no reason, because movies like this always do that. When a little person is shoved out of a window and ends up impaled, nobody seems to react like, oh my God, let's call the police or anything. Everyone just keeps on dancing because there's a festival going on.
It's Transylvania. There are no police because we all know that Count Dracula is the police.
I know I moved on from my turn, but can we talk about how Red Brown asks for directions to the airport?
Walks up to the one guy playing an instrument.
There's like 8,000 people on the street.
Yeah, and he walks up to the one guy on stage playing his instrument. He puts the gun directly between his eyes and asks for directions to the airport.
And keep
and
in
the
mind,
guy's
this
reaction is to point the direction he's actually going. Sorry, what's that?
We've escaped the werewolves. These people are just having a festival. Red Brown walks in the middle of town with a girl covered in blood, points a gun at the most prominent person in the street, directly to the temple, and asks for directions to the airport. Unbelievable.
And like I said, the guy just points in the direction he was already going, and they keep going that direction. I'm like, what was the point of that?
And I also want to know, how did the girl get so covered with blood? They put a little bit of blood on her arms, and then the next time we see her, she's suddenly like it's like she was bathing in blood.
I thought they had her chained to a fountain in there that just wasn't that clear.
Oh man, where does one go? I can't think of anything more American than putting a gun to someone's head and asking for directions. That's just that they've written an ugly American is what they've done there. You mentioned the expendable crew members, the priests who are really only introduced so that they can get some body count on the good guys' side, and one of them is a heavier set priest, and he's eaten.
Yes.
And they did a face cast. They did like a whole mannequin style face so that they could really tear it apart. But they stay on it too long, and it's too well lit for the budget that they have. So you have to spend quite a noticeable amount of time watching a fake face being torn apart.
I remember looking at that going, oh, that's not a bad special effect. And then as it stayed on there, like 3 minutes later, I'm going, that's not good at all. Like the longer we're staying on it, the more I'm thinking this is not a good special effect.
And then the worst part too is that it's a terrible special effect that leads you to it, because it's Sybil Danning's, like talisman, I guess, or whatever. That's kind of this floppy, werewolfy kind of pterodactyl creature thing.
Yes, I said the gargoyle made of sun-dried tomatoes.
Yeah, yes. And I mean, and she finally, like, enchants it to go and attack this guy. And it's just like, and that special effect right there reminded me slightly more of Rock and Roll Nightmare and Thor facing the Beelzebub, Oh, I'm gonna hold this thing to my face,
I see the resemblance there for sure. The editing, those editing transitions that are straight out of a video effects at home library. It's the kind of transitions you would do on your home movies, and it isn't much away from a Starfade. I was actually waiting for one to show up. And those make more sense if it's a comedy. They make no sense if it's
in a dramatic movie, for sure. Yeah, when you talk about like diamond wipes, it's just like,
yeah,
oh, that's a poor choice.
If you're doing like that Wynorski Transylvania movie that we watched,
absolutely, yeah,
they totally would have made sense in that context.
Transylvania twist.
Transylvania twist. Thank you. I think the last thing I want to mention is just there's one exchange of dialogue that I was actually going to go with a 9, but this exchange of dialogue bumps at that extra point. The love interest, who I will say is she reminded me through the whole film of the librarian who's just about to shake her hair and become all beautiful and then doesn't. She just stays the bookish reporter through the whole thing. I like that she makes a move on Reb.
Yep.
Like they're checking the hotel and he's like, we'll have 2 rooms, respectably. And she's like, no, we just need the one. There's been no chemistry
with a vista.
And then 3 minutes later, they're boning in the room. And I'm like, why was he not wanting to get laid? What was his reasoning there?
But then,
be respectful.
But and then the only explanation. And then you have the epilogue, of course, with the handing out the Halloween candy to the werewolf kid that didn't exist. And the weird like guy in the apartment across, and it's just like, oh wow,
is that not the sequel? I guess.
No,
the Howling 3. Your next door neighbor's kid is a werewolf.
There's so much.
So the exchanges, the two, Reb and his lady friend are out on the street, and they're walking along this festival that's going on. The festival that is 1 block long that is happening for 2/3 of the film. And she says, "Hey, you see that dwarf staring at us? Yeah. Should we follow him? Yeah, why not?" Well, I could answer all of the. I probably have a longer answer for why not, but.
Well, and then there was the part, of course, too, where Reb Brown went off to do something and wound up with the dwarf and finding Stirba's castle, and he leaves her with a guy who we assume that is a good guy, but it turns out no, he's actually not a good guy. And I'm like, did you just leave her with some random dude on the street?
He did. There's no explanation of why they know that guy or who he's supposed to be, and then he and then he puts the moves on her.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I think he was a werewolf because when they came and got him, and it's just like, she's not for you.
No, I guess.
And so yeah,
wasn't he the bellhop at the hotel?
Was he though?
Who knows?
Maybe.
That would make. I mean, I guess that would help it make a little bit of sense, but.
I mean, I guess. I'm assuming that you looked up the number there, Jack, but I counted the 17 boob reveals. Because after the first couple, I'm like, how many times I'm probably going to need to know later how many times this is.
Here's the thing. Here's the reason I didn't. I mean, I should have gone back, but I know I'll be watching that end credits again. I don't have any questions about that. The movie's over. So like most movies, I'm like, okay, the movie's over. I'm going to the bathroom. I hear, I'm in the bathroom and I hear this music going off, scratch, and I'm like, is something going on in the end credits? Is there a second epilogue I'm missing? I walked out of the bathroom to see her rip her shirt off. That was probably 12 out of 17. I think I missed the first 11. And I went, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
It is something. A 10 for me as well. Memorable moments.
Well, obviously, like all memorable moments pretty much begin and end with Sybil Danning in this case. I mean, her ripping off and revealing her breast, that's never leaving my mind. But and also the outfit, that outfit is completely memorable. I would also say that I think just from sheer repetition, the music is going to be completely memorable, and that band in the club. I think I don't know that there's going to be so much within the movie. I think it will just actually be more of like a feel, almost a sense of like when I think of the Howling 2, I'm going to remember the movie in just like the kind of the feel of the movie and the sheer just ridiculousness of it, and how absolutely terrible Reb Brown was in this. But so for me,
that's by Reb Brown standards.
Yes, I know, it's so true. Like in this case, and normally Reb Brown isn't exposed in a Reb Brown vehicle because everybody else is of similar terrible quality acting. In this case, there's actually some people around him that can act and manage to do a decent job, and so he is kind of exposed, and it's just like, that's a tragedy. But he's still Reb Brown, and he's still awesome. But so I'm going to go with a 7.
I think this movie is naturally an 8 when you take into the effect of, Sybil Danning, boob shots, prod rock, werewolves. But then you have to add in the drag factor of human null Reb Brown. So I'm only giving it a 6.
Oof. Man, well, for me, we have a rare double because usually the WTFs cancel out the memorable moments. In this case, I don't care if there isn't a single other memorable moment. That boob shot, because I saw it so many times repeated in such a quick fashion, and we'll see it 17 times repeated in a quick fashion in the future. I can tell you the exact camera shot that it happened at. I could tell you the lighting. I remember everything because I saw it over and over and over again. We have a rare double. I don't care about anything else. It's a 10 based solely on the end credits and the topless shot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I sound like a pig. I'm being honest here. This thing was amazing.
Are you going to remember it associated with this movie, though?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
I will.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that.
Like, the only thing about this movie I remember.
I do think that this partway through this movie, when we start really getting a lot of Sybil Danning screen time, that's when I was like so happy that we were doing this season. Like this is what we wanted of a Sybil Danning, is this movie.
Yes, for sure. Just she's in her element in this case. Like she thinks like you say, she thinks she's doing Shakespeare, and they managed to squeeze a topless shot out of her. So applause.
It's I think it was well put by Roger Ebert when he said it's not Sybil Danning's worst movie, but it's close. I love it.
Oh, lighten up, Roger. 8 for me. Crazy concept.
Well, I mean, we automatically have to take some points off because it is a sequel, and anytime you have a sequel, and especially once you hit 8 of them, then, I mean, now that being said, I mean, I think maybe there's a tipping point on sequels where by the time you hit sequel number 6, 7, or 8, then it's probably tipped back into a crazy concept again. But in this case, in 2, probably not so much. I do think hiring Reb Brown seemed a little bit of an odd choice. The whole like Transylvania thing, like it's so. I think hiring a director who'd never done a horror movie and who was really more of an art director to helm this movie and then expect it to be either A, comedy, or B, a sexy werewolf movie, I think that was a little bit crazy. Overall, it's a mishmash. I'm kind of torn on it, so I'm going to go with I'm going to go with 5.
Yeah, it's weird for a movie to go this far off the rails. You think there have to be some really crazy shit in there, but on a whole, you kind of get the sense they were okay. Howling 1 made money. We got the rights. What's hot right now? Well, there's this new wave thing happening. Let's do a modern take on the werewolf movie. And then you hire the most obvious people. I mean, Sybil Danning at this point is doing the Sybil Danning thing. She's like, yeah, we got enough money for her. Christopher Lee is at a weird point in his career where, you can hire him for a couple bucks. Reb Brown, I mean, he's terrible, but at the time, they kind of thought he was going to be something, I think. So, yeah, it's not terribly crazy, I don't think.
Agree to disagree.
It's 1986. This isn't 1976.
Oh, okay.
New wave is not exactly new with this.
He was almost something at one point.
It's middle-aged wave at this point.
But I mean, he was a name, and he was sort of a leading man. He just didn't have any talent for it. I don't think it was terribly crazy. I'm only going with the 6.
I'll agree. He was a name.
He has a name. Yes,
he had 2 of them.
Yeah,
Reb and Brown.
I mean, he's the saint. He's a saint. I mean,
he is a saint.
Oh no!
And
he pops up in a lot of movies as a star.
Oh my god!
A lot of our movies as a star, and I think that's the important thing to know.
That's the important thing. Yeah.
He had fans. Some people knew who he was.
Well, damn right.
Saints of the Octagon. Just spitballing there. Is it my turn? Because this movie is a sequel. There's nothing. It's a sequel. It's generic. Blah blah blah.
It doesn't have anything to do with the original.
Hey, let me finish. You know what is not generic? What is the craziest concept I've ever seen in my entire life? Was 17 breast shots for no reason in a 3-minute span during the end sequences. Just ensuring that you could never be seen on television. That is the craziest thing I've ever seen in a movie. Like, honest to God. And it pushes it way up for me to a 9.
It's I think some parts of it are a regular pitch, but and if it was mixing genres, it would also be a reasonable pitch. But they mix genres like they're pulling them out of a hat, rather than for an artistic reason. Like that idea of and it makes a bit more sense knowing that like different people involved in the production had different ideas of what kind of movie this was supposed to be. That it is this mix of horror and erotic thriller and comedy and whatever genre Reb Brown is. But Reb Brown and Christopher Lee as a crime fighting duo is itself enough for a couple extra points for me. 8 for me.
That's good. You know what? I'm going to bump it up to 7 because the last 2 of you have made a good, compelling argument on why 5 is too low. Breasts and Christopher Lee and Reb Brown as a crime-fighting duo. Okay, you're right. Fair enough.
All right. That brings us to the end of the balloting. And now we just have to wait for a recount in Arizona. And I can give a... All right. The grand total is a very respectable 78 out of 100, which puts it one ahead of Hots and tied with Rotor. Which is just
top 20, right?
Yeah, that'd be top 20.
Top 15?
I don't know. I can't count this high.
Don't ask. Dude just watched Howling too.
I know my score for it is an 83. Like if everybody matched my scores, it would have gotten an 83. I had it way up there.
Tied for 15th to be precise on the Octagon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a strange movie because it does have that opening, the opening part in California where it feels like you're going to get like some sort of standard horror movie, and then it just goes completely nuts.
And like you say, the last 15, 20 minutes or whatever is a nonstop, constant laugh fest.
It's just, and not because it's a funny movie.
No.
But because it's so bad that we're just laughing our ass off. And in fairness, that's what the show is about. The last 15 to 20 minutes nail what this show is about.
Oh yeah, this was joyful to watch.
Yes.
I said my wife was Lacey was there when I was watching it, and I said this is a top 20 movie. Sometimes I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but I don't know what it's going to come out with the rest of the scoring. But I knew watching this was a top 20 movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, James, what do you say? Shall we do some business?
Absolutely. We are on Instagram at the Cult Film Showdown. You can also, we've got a YouTube channel you can subscribe to. We're on every podcast app there is. We have a Patreon. If you like the show, if you like what we're doing, if you don't like the show and want to pay us to stop, that's Patreon.com, Cult Film Showdown. And, also we are sponsored by We Talk Podcasts. We Talk Podcasts is the home of the Octagon. WeTalkPodcast.com. They also have a Facebook and they have a Twitter. You can keep up on what we're doing and what all of our brother and sister podcasts, and the one that is My Sister Is A Werewolf podcast.
Everybody's favorite.
That's right.
I just want to ask, do you think this would have, if we didn't do the 17 topless shots in the 3 minutes end credits, do you think it would have been top 40?
I think it still would have done well, but I think that, leaving us with that kind of joy of the same music video for a fourth or fifth time, and the 17 topless shots, I think it just left because sometimes a movie has a lot of schlock and WTF early on and then kind of tapers. This has a nice build, and you walk away really in a great mood after watching this thing.
Yes, it's really I think it would be top 40. I think it would be probably maybe top 30. But the fact is that you throw that in there, and any question of like, oh, that was an 8, suddenly instantly becomes, oh, that's a 10.
Exactly.
All right,
I think it would have been top 30 perhaps, top 40 for sure. But it gained at least 15 spots, I think, based on that sequence.
Oh, for sure. Because it was so out of place and so perfect all at the same time.
Well, I don't know if you know, but it was gratuitous.
Yes, it was. And gratuity is what we look for. Okay, well, now we are moving on to Warrior Queen as we carry on with our Sybil Danning season.
Speaking of gratuitous.
And yes, so that one, I guess you're going to have to tune in next episode to find out how well Warrior Queen does. So I don't know. I think we've talked a lot about Sybil Danning this episode. So what do you say, guys? Anything else to add?
Close her up.
All right. So for Jim and for Jack and for Nick, I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and thanks for listening to the Cult Film Showdown.
Party time! Ow! It's the rocking, shocking, new wave of horror. Howling 2. Howling 2. It's not over